going to draw nicely.
What's up, YouTube? This is Roy.
This is Joey.
We're both from Third Duelist, and today we have with us Alex, and he's going to be profiling his raccoons. So let's get started.
Right on. All right. I chose to play Raccoons. Well, first of all, because their I guess boss monster, their Egsies, is really solid, and they're just kind of cute. They're raccoons. They're powerful. Pretty much self-explanatory. Start off the deck profile with 3 baby raccoon Ponpoko. I usually like to open up with this because when it's normal summon, you can special summon another level 2 or lower beast, or no, just a level 2 beast type monster from your deck. It's just really essential in the deck. Next, play 3 Tantans. Tantan is usually who you want to go for when you normal summon Ponpoko. You just flip summon that next turn, special summon another one, and that leads you into the play of Kalantosa. I run 2 Kalantosa for that exact effect, Tantan. You don't want to draw into this because you're usually trying to throw this from the deck to the field by means of Tantan. But if not, you always have the answer of Bellerophon. Bellerophon came out in the recent pack, and it added a lot of needed help to the deck. You can discard 1 card to target a level 2 or lower beast type monster in your graveyard, and then special summon it, which is really helpful because if you can if you already have a raccoon in your graveyard and you have this on the field, you can usually, if you draw one, you can pitch this and then special summon it off its effect and then get its effect again, which is really solid. Or if you have one of these in your hand, Fabled Cerebral, playing 2 of these really helps with the synergy with Bellerophon because when it's discarded, you can special summon it, which gets you that rank 2 play that you're really trying to go for. Now my one-ofs, I play Wind Up Kitten, Tree Otter, and Beast King Barbaros for the Beast lineup. Wind Up Kitten, one-of, just because I guess it's personal preference. I don't want to run 2 Wind Up Kittens because I really like Tree Otter's effects, or Tree Otter's effect, and with Obedience School, I want to get one of these 2 guys out because I want them in the graveyard. I can get them out a lot faster in the graveyard with Bellerophon, or yeah, usually just Bellerophon if I'm really trying to get him out of Soul Charge, I guess. But and Beast King Barbaros just because it's a 3K beat stick, and off Obedience School, if I draw this first turn, I have Beast King Barbaros first turn, and I in later games, if I have no field, Obedience School, Tribute Beast King Barbaros, explode their field. It's really nice. And for my final monsters, I have Thunder King Ryan, 2 copies of Junk Synchron. Junk Synchron really helps with the deck because all I do is run a lot of level 2 monsters. When this is normal summon, if I have level 2 monster lower in the graveyard, special summon it and I can get out an Archimedes or any other level 5 I run. Thunder King really helps out with problems, special summoning negates it, and the opponent can, well, neither of us can add cards from deck to hand, which is really helpful. Those are my monsters. For my spells, I run, honestly, probably the best card in the deck, 3 Obedience School. If you open this first turn, it allows you to really control the duel, and that's why you're going to run 3. Special summon 3 level 2 or lower beast type monsters. You can't special summon anything but beast that turn, which isn't that big of a deal. But yeah, it's just a super strong card. And Call the Haunted for this archetype. Airs, Rocks, Sunrise. Target one beast type monster, special summon it in your graveyard, but you have an added effect of cutting into your opponent's attack by 200 for every beast, plant, winged beast you currently have in your graveyard, which is really solid. I run 2 MSTs.
With all the snatch steals and the emptiness and skill drains and the cliff forts in general, why do you only run 2?
Well, I run 2. I side another one I guess I vary it from siding 1 Night Beam and just an extra MST. So I can side those in. But I also run Wiretap and Trap Stun in the main deck, which helps me out with the traps. Doesn't so much help me with the spells and the pendulums, but I guess that's just personal preference, having 2 of those and then 2 trap negators, because deck space is pretty tight in this, and that's why I chose 2 MSTs.
Alright.
Moving on from that, I run for draw power, 2 Upstart Goblins.
Why only 2?
2 Upstart Goblins. Honestly, once again, deck space is tight. I guess further on in the deck profile, that you'll see some cards that I guess were techs and not so much I guess staples, which could be switched out for like 3rd MST or that 3rd Upstart. But since I have I probably would keep it up at 2 Upstart Goblins just because of the Obedience School, since I have 3 of those. I really want to get into my monsters fast in this because I want to be able to swarm the field as fast as possible. And since I run 3 Obedience School, honestly, I guess you could argue late game Obedience School isn't great because you're usually going to be wasting a lot of your resources with the first 2. So I guess it's just personal preference. Do you want to have 3 Obedience School or 3 Upstarts? Because you can almost look at a Obedience School. Yeah, it's Searcher, but it thins your deck out really well. And Upstart Goblin is a deck thinner. You draw 1 card. So I guess it's just personal preference at 2. And then Raigeki, because you can blow the field up with a super strong token. That's going to be awesome. Creature Swap. Yes, I love this card in this deck. Only 1, because you really don't want a lot of them. You don't want to, because this is an OTK deck, and you really don't need to be running any more creature swaps than 1, I believe. Because if you have like a Pawn Poko on the field and they have a big beat stick, you can just creature swap, give them a Pawn Poko, and sucks to be them.
I have a question about that. Why would you play Creature Swap when you can play Snatch Steal?
I guess I just haven't updated this deck in a bit, but yeah, I guess that's the only reason I don't play Creature Swap or Snatch Steal instead of Creature Swap. But this card does have a lot of utility because I guess I can switch, but Snatch Steal I guess would be the better choice since I'm only running 1 of Creature Swap. Soul Charge, just because if I can get multiple monsters on the field and then Exes into Sendayu, that really helps, or I can get into a lot of synchro plays, and it's just Soul Charge. So any deck you can play Soul Charge in, it's a good idea. For the traps, this is where it gets a little trollsy. Magic Cylinder. This card has won me so many games, it's ridiculous. I set Magic Cylinder because, or I chose Magic Cylinder because this deck doesn't run a lot of strong cards, and if you can get rid of my tokens or my Beast King, I don't have a lot of outs to beat you with. I mean, I can synchro into stuff, but if I have an empty field, I'm kind of screwed. So Magic Cylinder really helps out. And along with that, I run 2 Mirror Force because no one runs Mirror Force anymore because of the destruction effects. They usually don't go very well with Burning Abyss and Shadalls and things of that nature, but it really helps a lot because a lot of people aren't expecting Mirror Force.
Are these the only battle traps you run?
Yes, these are the only battle traps.
Would you consider taking out the Mirror Forces or the Magic Cylinder for Deep Prisons?
Yeah, I actually have considered taking out Mirror Force actually for the Deep Prisons because for me the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh is to get your opponent to 0. And Magic Cylinder really helps that out. I know there's trap negation, but that's just a risk you have to take with that. It's a risky card, but the reward is really good. But yeah, Mirror Force, I have thought about cutting this completely and just putting in 2 Deep Prison just because it banishes and it doesn't destroy. And then for the staples, I mean, these are really solid staples. Solemn, Bottomless, Compulse. They're pretty self-explanatory.
Any reason why you don't run Torrential?
I don't want to get rid of my monsters as much as I want to get rid of theirs because I want to have an established board. I know Torrential is that one-turn thing where I can completely blow up the field. I go minus a little, but they go -2. I guess it's just personal preference. I'm not a big fan of Torrential Tribute unless I have utility for it, or if I can possibly get a plus off of it. And that's why I only run these 3. And then for the final traps, Trap Stun and Wiretap. I don't want to. I like running 1-ofs of each because essentially it's the same thing. They negate. This negates and sends back the deck. This just negates all traps. There's been times where I've tested both, where I had 2 trap stuns, no wiretap, or 2 wiretaps, no trap stun, and both times I came up with opportunities where I wish I would have had a trap stun set instead of a wiretap. So I feel like having 1-ofs of both of these in this deck is really nice.
So you wouldn't cut one to play 2 of the other?
No, I would not. Extra deck, pretty standard. 3 Sandayu, boss monster of the deck. Just detach, get out a token. You use the highest attack on the field, both sides of the field, and it can't be blown up or it can't be blown up by card effects or by battle if there's another beast in the field, which is pretty awesome. And in case I have one of those where it's completely empty, has no materials, I have Downer Magician for that. Use one of the Sandayus, get out a beat stick, just another body on the field. One of my favorite cards of the deck that I always try to go for is the Fabled Unicorn. It's really, really good for control. While you and your opponent have the same number of cards in hand, you just negate everything and destroy it. A lot of people forget that effect. You can still activate, but then I'll negate it. So you just wasted a resource. But I can't always rely on people not knowing what this card is. But yeah, this card is really, really solid.
Would you say you can make that card pretty consistently?
Yeah, it's super, because all you have to do is, if you Obedience School, it's pretty much guaranteed I'm going to go into the Fabled Unicorn if our hands are matching, or even first turn, depending on, I guess, the deck I'm playing, if I know, like game 2.
Would you ever consider bumping it up to 2 if it's so good?
Yeah, I've actually had it at 2, and it's not that great because late game, I guess it just really depends. You can run it at 2, but I saw that I wasn't going into it late game as much. I like this early game because I want to control you at first and then get the OTK with the tokens. Because I've done that many times. I'll have a monster in hand, Obedience School, 3 monsters. One of them is Fabled. Get out Fabled Unicorn, or normal summon my other monster. 2 level 2s, overlay into a Sendayu, take that out, or take out one of the materials, and then I have a 2300 token, which is a pretty good first turn move. So yeah, I really like this card in this deck. I also run for level 5s. I run Armides, Samsara, Maturity Beast, Frozen Fits, and Ally. Ally, just Catastrophe. I don't make Frozen Fitzgerald a lot just because Armides is better, but if there's ever an opportunity where they have a higher, anything higher than 23 but lower than 25, I guess, I make Fitzgerald. Pretty much the same card, but they're both really awesome. This is pretty much a Synchro Monster Reborn. I make every one of these a lot. All of them have a lot of utility in this deck, but the one I always want to go for is Maturity Beast, just because I can negate spells, and Cliffords don't like that.
I do have a question on the Beast.
Yep.
With it being such a low attack monster, would you ever consider just taking out, putting something with a higher attack, despite the effect?
Yeah, I originally did not run any beast at all. I thought it would be silly to try to run it because the only thing I can get it out with is Bellerophon. But I found that more times than not, I would rather have this low attack, and because really this is just here for Cliffords, or which I've seen that normal monster build where they run Heart of the Underdog and they just keep drawing, and that sucks. So this can just pop that immediately. But yeah, this card, I really think you should always run this card, especially since Cliffords is a thing. And for the 6s, HTS Behemoth and Naturi Barkion. I mean, same reason you want to run Beast, Naturi Beast, this negates traps. Trap negation is really good, and then this gets to run into big beat sticks and banish them. Yeah, you have to banish your Behemoth, but at least the beat stick that they have got banished as well. For 7, I play Black Rose Dragon. I would consider taking this out for Arcanite Magician, but just because I can't play Exciton and I want other field explosion besides Barbaros and Raigeki, I play Black Rose Dragon and not Arcanite. But yeah, it's also a possibility that I would take that out for Arcanite. For the 8, Crimson Blader for Shadalls. Because man, if you can stop them from summoning their fusions, they can't do anything. And anything else that runs level 5 or higher monsters, it's just really helpful to have that in there. And finally, Leo, because he's a beast, and if you can airs Leo, they never expect that, and it's just really solid. And yeah, that is the extra deck lineup. That's my deck profile. Raccoons, really fun. Unexpected deck, I guess. Not a lot of people play it, and that's one of the reasons I played it. But yeah, just really fun. Get high attack tokens off low attack monsters.
Alright, that is it for the deck profile. So if that's all you wanted, you go ahead and stop watching now. We're going to ask some questions. So if you're interested in his response, you can go ahead and keep paying attention.
Why do you run Behemoth over Goyo?
Alright, the reason I run Behemoth over Goyo is because Goyo, yeah, you can get their monster, but more times than not, it's more useful to destroy their big boss. Not destroy, banish their boss, especially mainly just Burning Abyss. If you can get rid of that Virgil or that Dante and banish it, that's solid. But Goyo also has this utility just because 2800 beat stick. You can destroy one of their monsters, summon it onto your side, and then use one of your tuners to sink into something else. So they both have their utility. I just feel like Behemoth has a little more utility than Goyo.
You've mentioned a few changes you would consider making. Is there anything you are pretty sure you want to change in your deck, or would it pretty much stay where it is?
I would say the Mirror Force I would change that to the Deep Risen, just because yeah, Mirror Force can get rid of big boards if everything's in attack, but most players don't play that risky unless they know they're about to OTK me. I just feel like Deep Risen would have a little more utility, and like you were telling me, Creature Swap needs to be switched out for Snatch Steal, just because Snatch Steal is a better card than Creature Swap, and if I'm only running a 1-of, why not? But other than that, the only other card I could see maybe switching out is Beast King Barbaros and Thunder King for maybe another Wind-Up Kitten and maybe some more Trap Negation. But other than that, I would say I like the deck. It's pretty solid.
Alright, what would you say is your best matchup and your worst matchup?
Honestly, I don't think this deck has a best matchup because it's such a reactive deck, because tokens are the thing that make this deck so strong, and the tokens are only as strong as the strongest monster on the field, and if you don't have a lot on the field, then honestly your deck is your own worst enemy. So if you're reliant on your opponent's monsters, then I guess you're in for some trouble. But the cool thing about this deck is you can summon a 3100 beat stick, Leo, and summon a token, and now you have another 3100 beat stick, and it gets to keep that attack. So, is there a good matchup for it? I guess just anything that like wipes board really fast. I know every time I go against a Teller Knight, I'm usually in for some trouble just because Trigger is a thing, and I hate that card. That card just really wrecks this deck because I can have a big field, which is really easy to get, but then Trigger says I don't care.
Speaking of monster effects, I didn't see any breakthroughs or finish in there. Would you ever consider running those?
Yeah, I would, but I feel like since I'm trying to OTK my opponent as fast as I can. It doesn't always happen, so you can kind of grind out if you have a Unicorn, and you can do some hand manipulation. But yeah, I could see where effect negation would be pretty relevant. But like I said before, the deck space is pretty tight, and since I am trying to OTK them as quick as possible, or just control them a little bit with Magic Cylinder and Unicorn, things like that. Yeah, I don't know if there's room for breakthrough skills or effect negation, but I could see there possibly being something that I look into.
Would you consider running any other generic aids along with Crimson Blader, like a Stardust?
Yeah,
or Scrap Dragon, or...
Stardust for sure. Scrap Dragon, maybe. I guess that's kind of an alternate. It's kind of an Arcanine Magician in the fact that I can pop stuff, but I don't make a lot of 8s in it, honestly. It's kind of hard to make 8s because I run a lot of 2s. I mean, I could use 4 level 2 monsters, but it's not as efficient as going into Sandayus and then going into Fabled Unicorn or a level 6 or something like that.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, like, would you rather play Stardust or something instead of Crimson Blader, or do you like having Crimson Blader?
I guess that would be another change I would probably make, would be the Crimson Blader for a Stardust, because Crimson Blader's effect comes up less than a Stardust would. Yeah, I guess the only reason I really have Crimson Blader in there is for this should all match up at any time I get, I don't know, like a Chaos matchup or something. They can't special summon their big boss like BLS or Chaosos or something like that. Stardust would probably be the other 8 I run instead of Crimson.
I have one last question, 2 parts to it. I've seen builds with Redox in there, and I've also seen builds with Rykos in there. Would you ever consider those, or if not, why?
The Rykos, maybe just because it's field destruction, level 2 beast, so that helps. But the Redox, I personally wouldn't run it because I want to use my graveyard, my resources, and you have to banish stuff to get that Redox out. So the Redox probably not, but the Raikou, I ran them at first, but I ran those instead of a Wind-Up Kid and a Tree Otter. I ran 2 Raikous instead, but I like this build a little better just because I can get some higher attack beat sticks out with Tree Otter, and I can send stuff back to the hand instead of going to the graveyard with Kitten.
Alright, well, I think that's all the questions we have. If there's anything you would suggest changing in the deck, or something you think you shouldn't play or should play, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.